All right, everyone, let's get started. Welcome to the QSAS webinar, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Dorina. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Transition and Engagement Student Lead at the Student Experience Office this summer. I will be going into my 5th year of the concurrent education program in the fall, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and it will be available to be viewed later on the Student Experience Office YouTube channel within a few business days. And if I could get the next slide, please. Thank you very much. Before we begin, I'd just like to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land on which Queen's University is located. As Canadians, we have a collective responsibility to recognize the injustices committed against Indigenous peoples who have lived on and cared for this land long before the arrival of European settlers. Queen's campus, which is where I'm joining you from today, and which you can also see in the picture here, is situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. The Kingston area, originally known as Cataraqui, has been home to Indigenous communities for thousands of years and remains a place of significance and ongoing relationship for many Indigenous peoples today. As a student, I am very grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and study as an uninvited guest on this territory. It's very important to understand that Queen's, like many institutions in Canada, was established through colonial systems that displaced Indigenous communities. As a settler and as a guest, I carry a responsibility to reflect on that history and to contribute to a more just, inclusive, and respectful future. If this information is new to you, or if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. Thank you so much for taking a moment to reflect with me. Next, I'll be passing it on to our main speaker for today, Christina, who is an accessibility advisor with QSAS. Welcome, Christina. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the introduction, Dorina. I am so excited to be here and talk about accessibility services with you all today. Okay, let's get started here. Next slide, please. Okay, introducing QSAS. So the session today, I'm going to discuss who we are at QSAS, Queen's Student Accessibility Services. I will explain what we do. I will explain the process for registering, our documentation requirements, when to register, how to register. I'll be talking about getting you set up with accommodations and what to expect from that process. And yeah, I'm coming to you with this information as an accessibility advisor at QSAS. And so I'll talk about a few of the roles that exist in QSAS in just a little bit. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, in terms of who we are, our scope, QSAS supports and empowers students who are experiencing disability-related barriers to accessing and fully participating in their own educational experience. And so we do this by providing academic accommodations to students based on their first-person experience of disability, as well as their supporting documentation. Next slide. QSAS is located in Mitchell Hall, so pretty centrally located on campus. Our offices are, we're in the process of moving. So currently we're in Student Wellness Services right on that first floor. Soon we're actually moving across the hall from Student Wellness Services, and we'll actually be even more visible to you. So yeah, we're very excited for you to see our new space very, very soon. It'll be ready in time for September. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so now I'll talk a bit about the roles. So the first one I'll talk about are our intake coordinators. We have two lovely intake coordinators, Hillary pictured here, another named Hannah. and their role is to review your disability documentation. They will answer general questions about your documentation. So if you have any questions about, is this document sufficient, or what do I need? These are the folks who will be able to help you, and they are really the guide for you throughout the registration process. Uh, and so once you are registered with QSAS, you'll be assigned to an accessibility advisor who actually put your accommodations in place. Next slide, please. So this is our lovely team of accessibility advisors. I'm in the middle row on the left there. Yeah, we have a big, lovely team, and you will be assigned to an accessibility advisor based on your academic faculty. So for example, I serve the students in the Faculty of Law. Let's see, there's Caroline, who's kind of middle top row. She is Faculty of Arts and Science. We've got Deb in the center there, who is Commerce. Monique, bottom right, Engineering. Taylor, way over to the right, Health Sciences. With everyone else being Faculty of Arts and Science. Sorry, I won't go through everyone. But yeah, we have a really lovely team who is excited to meet you. And our job is to review the medical documentation that you submit. We will meet with you to understand your lived experience of your disability. That's very important to us in QSAS. We will co-create with you an accommodation plan, and we will provide ongoing support for your accommodations. So it's not just, we meet and once and that's it. We will be able to support you throughout your time at Queen's. Next slide, please. We also have our office operations administrator, Neha, who is on the webinar today. Sorry, Neha, I don't know if you want to give a quick wave. But Neha is our first point of contact for students. She is that welcoming face that will be happy to respond to your questions. She can assist with walk-ins. You just sort of drop in like, hey, I have this quick question. How does this work? Neha supports oftentimes when we need to schedule or reschedule meetings, and Neha processes forms such as letters of accommodation, medical documentation, referrals. So all that back-end stuff as well. Next slide, please. And lastly, we have our management team. So we have our manager, Alan, assistant manager, Mary, and another assistant manager, Katie. They support all QSAS staff to ensure that students with disabilities at Queen's are getting the accommodations they need. They are ensuring that everything we do follows legal and university policies and procedures. They use feedback, student feedback, faculty feedback, staff feedback to improve all of our services. And they also help instructors understand and know how to apply accommodations in their courses. Next slide, please. So QSAS is here to support your accessibility needs and will, as I briefly mentioned, review your disability documentation. We will review the intake form that you will fill out as well. We'll talk about that in a moment. We will meet with you to better understand the functional impacts of your disability or disabilities and develop an academic accommodation plan. We will support you in the implementation of your accommodation plan, given the academic requirements of your program. And we can meet again at any time and adjust your accommodation plans as needed. Next slide, please. However, there are also a few things that we don't do. And so we're also really good at being able to direct you to other services and resources. So for example, I'll just be very honest and say I don't know anything about course selection or what you need to graduate. Various program requirements. Oftentimes we'll be able to refer you over to academic advising for those types of conversations. Um, Residence accommodations is another common one. A heads up, we do not have anything to do with accommodations in residence. Heads up, you would go directly to residence life for those types of needs. We do not provide any mental health counseling. We also often refer to SAS, the Student Academic Success Service, for study skills and learning strategies. So, we can offer some tips, but I consider those folks really to be the experts in, oh gosh, how do I best study for this exam? How can I better memorize information or manage my time better so I can get all my assignments done by the deadline? So we can refer there. And yeah, another common referral is to the Adaptive Technology Center, who can help you with any assistive technology needs that you may have related to your disability. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So next, let's talk about registering and our documentation requirements, when to register, how to register. Next slide, please. Okay, register as soon as possible, ASAP. Early registration means being able to start the term with your academic accommodations in place. That is what you want. A heads up that the entire accommodation process may actually take up to several weeks. So we always recommend that people start early. Waiting until September may actually delay you getting your accommodations. September is unfortunately a very busy month at the university. And so waiting until then can really, as I said, delay things. And honestly, midterm assessments can really creep up on you faster than you expect. So I'll say it one more time, register as soon as possible. Next slide, please. Okay, now I will talk about the 5 steps to registration. Quick overview. Step 1, log into Ventus. Step 2, complete our QSAS intake form. Step 3, submit medical documentation. Step 3.5, wait 4 to 5 business days. Step 4, self-book your intake appointment. And then step 5, meet with your advisor. So let's take a moment and dive a little deeper into each of these steps. Next slide. Okay, first, logging into Ventus. What is Ventus? Next slide. Ventus is Queen's accommodation management system, or you might hear it called our accommodation portal. And so this is your first stop to registering with QSAS. This system allows you to register. It also manages your accommodations. This is also where you can see your upcoming tests, quizzes, and exams, and be able to see that, okay, I'm writing this test on this day, this time, and this is the amount of time, and this is the accommodated space location. Ventus does all of this. Next slide, please. So after you log into Ventus, you complete the intake form. Ventus actually prompts you to complete the intake form right away. Next slide, please. The intake form asks some general information about, for example, previous accommodations that you've had in the past. because we're curious about, what has been helpful for you in the past, or maybe not helpful. It will ask you about your functional limitations. So it's really helpful for us to understand your first-person perspective of challenges that you've had in the past because of your disability. And all this information really helps your accessibility advisor get to know you and determine which accommodations might serve you best. So this helps us to really enter that meeting with you already having an idea of what kind of supports you might need. Next slide, please. The next step, Ventus will prompt you to submit medical documentation. Next slide. And so, as I said, after completing the intake form, you'll be prompted to upload the documentation that meets our QSAS documentation criteria. So I'd like to dive a little deeper into this. I'm sure many of you have questions about this. Next slide, please. To receive academic accommodations, you must submit documentation that, first of all, confirms that you have a disability or disabilities. And so confirmation of a disability from a healthcare professional is required. However, disclosure of the diagnosis is not required. We just need to know that you have a diagnosed disability. And so if you don't feel comfortable sharing exactly what that diagnosis is, that is totally fine. We just need to know that you have a diagnosis. Although, yeah, I'll share, it is helpful for us to have the diagnosis. It just gives us a better idea of the types of struggles you may be facing. The documentation must also contain information about functional impacts within the academic environment. And what I mean by functional impacts or functional limitations, I think I've said this sort of jargony word a couple times now. It means we want to know how you're being impacted, not just that you're struggling, but what exactly are you struggling with? And how exactly does that impact, when you're trying to write assignments or when you're sitting in an exam? What exactly is going on in those moments that is making it difficult to complete that exam within the allotted time, meet that assignment deadline? And then lastly, the documentation must indicate the duration and severity of your disability impairments. In terms of duration, is it short term? Is it temporary? Or is this something ongoing for your whole time at Queen's? Is it permanent? So that's what we mean by duration. And severity is, are your symptoms mild, moderate, severe? Which symptoms are more severe than others? That sort of information. Alrighty, next slide, please. And so here are, excuse me, a couple of examples of documentation that we accept. A common one we receive are psychoeducational assessments. And so these are completed by psychologists, psychiatrists. So with regards to psychoeducational assessments, we require that they are completed within the last 5 years. If it's older than 5 years, we consider that out of date. We can still support you in the meantime, but we recommend that you do get an updated psychoeducational assessment. So completed within the last 5 years or after you've turned 18 for those adult measures. Another common piece of documentation is the OSAP disability verification form. So if you are applying for OSAP and you would like to receive any additional funds due to your disability from OSAP, there is a disability verification form. So feel free to scan the QR code if you have no idea what I'm talking about and you're interested. And so this form is very helpful for us. There's a couple of check boxes in there that your healthcare provider can just go through, and it provides us with all the information we need. The next one is our own QSAS verification form. And so we have a couple of different versions of this. So we have a QSAS verification form for mental health, for neurodiversity, for physical, medical conditions. So once again, there's a QR code. Feel free to look through our website and see which verification forms apply most to your situation. And yeah, once again, that's similar to the disability verification form. It's just a bunch of check boxes that are really helpful for us. And yeah, we also accept any other medical documentation that satisfies the documentation criteria that I just discussed on the previous slide. So if you are not sure if your documentation meets our requirements, please, we are so happy to talk more about this. And I recommend that you speak with an intake coordinator about that. They're happy to look at what you have. They're happy to make suggestions. Maybe you could, get documentation from here or there. They will really help you with those next steps. Next slide, please. All right, so once that documentation that meets our criteria has been submitted, you just sit back, you wait about 4 to 5 business days. Our intake coordinators will look over that documentation. So if everything's good to go, you'll receive an email with next steps. And the next step is to book your intake appointment. Next slide. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So now I'll talk about what it looks like to book your intake appointment. Thank you. So you have the option to book either an in-person meeting with your advisor, or you can book a remote meeting. I imagine a lot of folks are going to choose the remote meeting. Maybe you're not in Kingston and you're Kingston. So yeah, please go ahead and book the remote meeting. But if you end up being, already in the area or on campus, we love to meet people in person as well. So it's completely up to your preference. With regards to remote meetings, we actually have 2 options. I know it doesn't, or actually it does kind of mention it there on the slide. You can either choose a Microsoft Teams meeting, so like a virtual, camera meeting, or a phone appointment if that is easier. So whichever one you prefer. Next slide. And you get to choose your time and date as according to your advisor's availability. So please choose the soonest available time. That is our recommendation. As I mentioned, do not delay. All right, next slide. All right, last piece here is to meet with your advisor. That is your final step to registering. And so I'll talk about what that looks like. Next slide, please. Yeah, because we recognize it can be a little intimidating to meet with one of us. So I just want to give you ideas for what you can expect from that meeting. Next slide. Just a very quick word about confidentiality. QSAS maintains strict confidentiality standards to safeguard students' personal and academic information in accordance with university policies and privacy legislation. Essentially what this means is that we are not sharing your disability information with anybody. It stays in QSAS. When you submit to us documentation and we read the diagnosis and the functional impacts, specific symptoms, we're keeping that to ourselves. What does get communicated is which accommodations you have, but not why you have accommodations. And so I just wanted to make a quick note about that your professors will not know about your diagnosis and what symptoms you experience. They will only know, oh, okay, these are the accommodations that this particular student has. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of setting up the accommodations in that intake meeting with your advisor, I just want to give you a heads up, no preparation needed. Really don't feel like you need to bring anything or make notes unless that's helpful for you. But just wanted to say you don't need to prepare anything. We, as the accessibility advisor, will guide the conversation. So we'll let you know, all right, this is what we're discussing today. Okay, I have questions about this, tell me more about that. A heads up that we will be taking notes while you're speaking. So apologies for any maybe lack of eye contact sometimes. But yeah, once again, don't worry. Everything you discuss in the meeting will remain confidential. It's just so that we remember what we talked about. So that let's just say you book again in future. I remember, yes, this is what this particular student was struggling with last time. So we'll prompt you to discuss how your disability is impacting your academics. How are things during exams? How are you at note taking? We'll ask those types of questions. Your advisor will recommend accommodations and explain how they work. So we'll say, I think this could work really well for you. What do you think? And then explaining, giving you a guide for how to actually implement the accommodation. You may also be referred to other helpful campus resources, as I discussed earlier. We'll give you a demonstration of Ventus, just giving you a little tour around. As I mentioned, this is an important place, especially with regards to any assessment accommodations that you have. This is where you will find the time, date, and location for your accommodated assessments. So we'll show you that. And then we'll send you a follow-up email after the meeting and just recapping all of the key points. So don't feel like you need to remember everything that we've told you. We are going to discuss a lot of information. And so, yeah, feel free to just wait for that follow-up email to be like, yes, that's what that is. And this is what this is called. And yeah, so actually, yeah, I think that's everything. Then apologies for talking for so long. But yeah, next slide. I think we're ready for questions, or Dorina, am I passing this back to you at this point? Perfect.
Yep, thank you very much, Christina, for that lovely and really thorough introduction to the QSAS intake process. And now we're going to be moving to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please use the Q&A feature on the bottom right of your screen to send in questions. I see you've already received some questions, which is amazing. Feel free to also use the anonymous feature if it makes you feel more comfortable. And we will try to answer as many questions as we can during this time. Christina will be answering the questions live as they come in. And we also have someone responding on the back end as well, so there might be some typed answers. And next slide, please. So here we have a list of key resources and contact information that will stay up on this slide for you to refer to during the Q&A session. And you can scan those QR codes and check out where they take you. And now I'll hand it over to Christina to begin with responding to our first question.
Hey, I see that there are already a lot of really good questions, so thank you so much. The first question that I'll answer is, Is there a list of available accommodations posted or available somewhere online? That's a very good question. Short answer, no. So there is a huge list of accommodations that we have available to us as accessibility advisors in Ventus. Um, and we are also able to create sort of more individualized accommodations. So think of it like there's a menu, but then we can very much go off of the menu, if that makes sense. And so because the possibilities are quite large, we don't make that list available. And so we really base our discussion on the disability documentation and then that intake form, and then of course our discussion to figure out, first of all, what are the barriers you are experiencing? What challenges do you have? And from there, we find that that's the best way to go about figuring out, determining our accommodation plans, rather than perhaps a student choosing from a list. You might not know what is applicable to you and what's not applicable to you because, as I mentioned, it is quite a big list, and so a lot of them are not applicable to most situations. So I hope that makes sense. We really try to create a accommodation plan that is tailored to your specific needs. And so, yeah, I hope that makes sense. And then there is an aspect as well of, I don't want to say trial and error necessarily, but you don't know until you're in it type thing. So let's just say we create an accommodation plan ahead of September. We're thinking, okay, you're in these courses or you've registered in these courses and you have these specific challenges. Let's figure out a way to overcome those barriers. But let's just say in second year, third year, things might change, whether it's your disability that changes or the course requirements that are changing. Each year there might be different challenges. And so then we might make changes and adjustments to your accommodation plan along the way. So sorry, I think that was a very long-winded answer to your question, but I hope that was helpful. Okay, let's see. Is a parent also allowed to attend the meeting with the advisor and the student? Great question. Yes, parents are absolutely welcome. And so I have a couple of different talking points regarding that. So first of all, yeah, I think it's wonderful when parents are able to support, especially those moments where they might let their student know, oh, actually, did you discuss this or remember that? It's really wonderful when a student's like, oh my gosh, I almost forgot to mention that, and a parent kind of swoops into the support there. So that's always great. Greatly appreciated. However, keep in mind that we will be directing questions to the student. This is a big transition to university. And part of that transition is that the student will be responsible for advocating for themselves as an adult, as a university student. And so that is it's a really great support for parents to be at that first meeting. It's not required. If you would like to allow your student to just meet with us on their own, that's also completely fine. But yeah, we will just be directing questions to that student, and then we recommend the parents sort of supporting from the side rather than perhaps like answering for the student, because when the student is able to provide the answer, I find that we just get really we get the information that is really tailored to their needs and situations. So wonderful question. Thank you. All right. Let's see. I have a question regarding not being able to find the intake form when they log into Ventus. And so actually it should be the first thing that pops up. So you log into Ventus and it asks you to do the intake form. So if you are experiencing issues, you're like, where is the intake form? I do not see it, or I can't log into Ventus, like what's going on? I do recommend contacting us to figure that out. It could just be some kind of strange tech issue or so anyway, contact our either via email. I think email is kind of easier because sometimes you can or attaching screenshots can help of like this is what I'm seeing, or you can meet with us. You can call. So anyway, long story short, please contact us if that's an issue you're experiencing. Thanks for that. Okay, let's see. Wonderful question here. Yeah, sorry for the pauses. I'm just reading these wonderful questions. I had an IEP throughout high school. I would like to know about my options. I don't believe I have any documentation other than when I first got the IEP status before high school. What should I do? That is an excellent question. Um, and so an IEP doesn't provide us with that diagnosis that we need, because we need a confirmed diagnosed disability from your healthcare provider. However, if you only have the IEP and you're in the process of getting diagnosed, or you're really like, oh my gosh, I know I have this documentation, but like, where is it? Please still go ahead and register with us. We are able to get you set up with what we call interim accommodations. So just starting you out in the first term or the first academic year with accommodations, and then giving you enough time to actually go out and get the appropriate documentation that we need. So please, even if you are not sure or oh, like this doesn't quite meet the criteria, please still submit it. Please contact us because we can figure this out with you and let you know exactly what we need and let you know how to get it. Wonderful question. Let's see. Ooh, oh my goodness. You're thinking ahead. I love this. How do you apply for the OSAP bursary for students with disabilities? After creating the general OSAP application, is there anything else to do? So with OSAP, I'm not an OSAP expert, but so there's regular OSAP money, then there's funds that you can get as a student with a disability by submitting the OSAP disability verification form. On top of that, let's just say you have a really specific disability related need, whether it's a piece of technology or software, or if you have a physical disability like some sort of ergonomic equipment, anything like that. There is something called the Bursary for Students with Disabilities, or the BSWD. And so we can apply for those specific items with that bursary. And by we, I mean you and your advisor. So you need to be registered with QSAS, and you need to have been assigned to an accessibility advisor. And we work on that application together. It's actually quite a bit of a process that we don't want to have you do all on your own. It's quite onerous and can be quite complicated. And so we ask that you please bring it up to your accessibility advisor. There's probably not going to be time in your initial intake meeting when you're setting up your accommodations. That's going to be the focus. But please bring it up at some point, or maybe at the end of the meeting, like, hey, Christina, what's this bursary for students with disabilities? I'd like to look into some specific items, and then we will likely book an additional meeting to actually talk about that. So yeah, that's how kind of much of a process it is, where we have to book a whole other meeting to kind of talk about it. So thank you for bringing this up now. This is a great question to have early because we also recommend that it's done as soon as possible, just because, and I won't go into detail here, but there are deadlines for submitting that. So. All righty. Let's see. Oh, I will answer this. Do professors offer alternative forms of assessment, for example, non-multiple choice tests for students who have documented medical challenges with this form of assessment? Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's a complicated answer. So most, I guess, how can I phrase this? Most of the time it's not possible, but I have run into situations where an alternative assessment can happen. I would say it's really rare, I'll be honest, that an alternative assessment can be done, for example, like a non-multiple choice test, just because basically accommodations are not, or we can't modify the expectations of the program. We can help you overcome barriers that will, allow you to meet the course or program expectations. But we might not be able to actually alter those expectations, if that makes any sense. So if what I've said sounds confusing, no worries. Please bring this up with your accessibility advisor and we can have a more in-depth discussion during your intake meeting. But yeah, that is a very good question. And yeah, short answer, most of the time it's not possible. Okay. This is a very good question. I've heard that an 18-year-old must sign something that consents for the university to share information with the parent. Where do they sign this? And so I'm not quite sure for the rest of the university, but with regards to QSAS, as I mentioned, say for that initial intake meeting, parents are absolutely welcome. What we require, actually an additional form to be signed, is regarding situations where the parent is reaching out to the advisor directly, either asking for information or stating, hey, my student, my child is experiencing, this flare up of their disability. So basically, we will not share confidential information with anyone about your disability as a student, and that includes even your parents. And so if you would like us to be able to sort of openly, freely discuss, your disability, diagnosis, symptoms, all information about how that's been impacting, your courses, things like that, there is a what we call a third-party consent form that the student would need to sign saying, hey, yeah, it's totally okay for my parent to be involved in these types of situations. So yeah, thank you for asking and clarifying that aspect. Let's see. This is a good question. Are there accountability and learning coaches? If we've had parents filling that role, how can we transition and help to or get some help with regards to executive function? Yeah, this is a great question. So we have learning strategists at SAS, the Student Academic Success Service. And so, excuse me, we'll refer you over there. And we do currently have a specific QSAS learning strategist. Her name is Gail. She's been working with us for years, that she has specific experience, knowledge, education with regards to students who are neurodiverse. So with a learning disability, ADHD, autism spectrum disorder. So I really recommend looking over there, or feel free to bring this up again with your accessibility advisor once you meet with them, and we can discuss more in depth what that looks like. In terms of accountability, you can certainly meet with them over there. But yeah, in terms of like QSAS, like an accessibility advisor, we won't be able to fill that role of accountability coach, like, hey, did you get that paper done? So you might find other resources such as peer mentoring. Peer mentoring is a wonderful resource, tutoring as well. And so it might look a bit different with regards to accountability. You might have, instead of that one person, that parent or specific guidance counselor in high school, you would rely on several different people. Okay, I'm going to rely on this classmate to keep me accountable. We'll keep each other accountable for this course. But then with regards to preparing for exams, I'm going to book, a meeting with the learning strategist over at SAS, and doing that every year. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that accountability buddies, learning coaches, like that will look a bit different in university. Let's see. Oh, this is an interesting question. Should I apply for accommodations this year if I'm taking a gap year? Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Of course, we said, or I said ASAP. But I would say it might be better to, if you're not joining us this fall, but perhaps, next fall, maybe to do it over the summer then, just because it'll be more fresh. What a situation I would want to avoid for you might be that we have this great meeting. It's so informative. We get you all set up, and then you come into the fall, like in the following year, and you're like, wow, I forgot everything. So, of course, we're happy to, refresh your memory and things like that. But yeah, I would say if you would like to wait closer to when you are actually starting courses, that is, yeah, completely fine. But if for some reason, and I think there was another question, I think in the chat that was like, oh, what if I have a summer job and I can't meet until, much later, like I can't actually meet until September, then, that's okay. You got to do what you got to do. Everyone's schedules are, all over the place. And unfortunately, some students will ask, oh, can you like meet with me outside of office hours? We typically work like the 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 4:30 sort of hours. And so unfortunately, we can't really meet outside of those. And, like Monday to Friday, like we don't really meet on weekends, sorry. And so, yeah, if it has to wait, then, we got to do what we got to do. Just be sure to book that meeting like for as soon as you possibly can with your schedule. Okay, so I hope I answered a couple of those questions there. Let's see. Yeah, this is a difficult one. What is the latest the intake forms can be done to ensure accommodations are in place by September? That's always hard to say because, volume is sometimes hard to predict. It's going to be, the volume is going to be high, but sometimes it might vary, from like week to week, or, oh, this month, July was really busy. Or, oh, this month it was actually, early September wasn't as busy as I thought, but late September was way busier. So it's kind of, I wish I could answer a bit better, but sometimes it does like slightly vary between your academic years. So yeah, I'm just going to repeat myself. Register as soon as possible. You wouldn't want to, you know, delay and not have them in place, because I know it can be stressful for a lot of students where, they're working through their first couple weeks of class, and they already, maybe have like assignments. Oh my gosh, I have this test coming up, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't think I can get my accommodations in time, or I'm not gonna, have my meeting in time with my advisor to get the accommodations I really need. So yeah, just please avoid that stressful situation as best you can, and book with us, register with us as soon as possible. Oh, good question. Is the BSWD, the Bursary for Students with Disabilities, is that only for Ontario residents or any student at Queen's? So the BSWD, well, I'll try to make this short and sweet. There are sort of two sources of funding. There's federal funding, um, and then there's provincial funding. So each province has their own like BSWD, and so the BSWD is specifically for Ontario residents. So yeah, if you say have somebody else that you know that's going to a different university that's not Queen's, they can also apply for the bursary for students with disabilities. And yes, sorry, Ontario residents specifically. Sorry, I don't know if I caught on to that part of the question initially. So for example, if you're not from Ontario, if you're from another province, as I mentioned, each province has their own BSWD. It's always called something slightly different. And so you would apply with your home province's bursary process. So we can still help. Just to clarify. Oh, sorry, I'm losing my voice. 1 second. Oh, excuse me, sorry. So we can still help. Please still bring it up. The process might just look a little bit different. But yeah, if you're, say, an international student, then we wouldn't be able to apply for this specific bursary. Okay. Yeah, let's see, again with the IEP, so the interim accommodation still lasts roughly the first year. So yeah, interim is we'll set up your accommodations until the end of the following term usually. So let's just say, you're getting accommodations for fall, we will set them up until the end of the winter term. So until the end of April. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't really specific when I was speaking. So yeah, to specifically answer that, yeah, until the end of April. So you'd be good for your first academic year before you can get like if you're waiting to get a proper medical assessment. In terms of help from our office for medical assessments, we can usually direct you to what kind of healthcare provider, based on the disability, what kind of healthcare provider would need to sort of sign off on, our QSAS verification forms, or, whatever the documentation is. So yeah, definitely please reach out to us, speak with an intake coordinator. They are very happy to discuss that further with you, and let you know your next steps. Even sometimes we can, for certain types of assessments, we even have a list of like, oh, here's places you can go for this type of assessment. So yeah, please reach out. Ooh, it's a very good question. In general, how are the professors with honoring accessibility requests? What if a professor is unwilling to do so? Very good question. So with regards to say like extra time on exams, that's really straightforward. Like professors will never give you a hard time for that, or it would be extremely rare. There are certain accommodations which you do have to discuss with the professor and sort of negotiate, if that makes sense, if it's with regards to attendance in class, or perhaps if it's regarding an extension on an assignment. Excuse me, sorry. The accommodation is going to look slightly different depending on the course, so depending on the course structure and the learning outcomes of the course. So all students need to meet the learning outcomes of the course. And accommodations can't get in the way of that. We can't say, oh, it's okay if you don't meet this learning requirement. No, you need to meet the learning requirement in order to pass the course. But we as accessibility services can help you get there in terms of reducing the barriers you might be experiencing to meeting that learning requirement. So long story short, sorry, yeah, I'm talking a lot and running low on time. So yeah, long story short, professors have to respect your accommodations. It's very rare that they don't, but if you run into an issue, please speak with your accessibility advisor. We can let you know, hey, actually in this situation, yeah, your professor who was unwilling to give you that accommodation, they actually have to. It's legally what they got to do. Or sometimes it's like, oh, sorry, student, actually, because of this learning requirement that you need to meet, we can't exactly give you the accommodation, but maybe we could figure out a different solution to help you overcome this barrier. So I hope that makes sense. And yeah, sorry, I have talked a lot. I am going to pass it back to Darina, but thank you for all of these questions. There's so many I didn't get to, but please don't hesitate to reach out. We're always happy to help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina, for that session. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. That was a lot of really amazing questions. We recognize that we were not able to get to everyone's questions. So if that's the case, we encourage you to visit the QSAS website. And you can also email them at qsas.intake@queensu.ca to book your appointment or get answers to any additional questions that you might have. We will also be having another webinar with QSAS on July 22nd, and you can find out more information about that and register for that webinar on the Summer Webinars for First Year Students page on the Student Experience Office website. And before we close the webinar today, I wanted to let you know that there's a lot more upcoming events this summer for incoming first year students like you. Some of these activities and webinars will also be inclusive of parents and supporters, so that's something you might want to keep an eye on. From July 2nd to July 31st, we'll be having SOAR, which is our online summer orientation experience for incoming first year students. And during this orientation program, you can get to know your specific program, Queen's campus, as well as meet some peers online during the month of July. If you check your Queen's email regularly for our weekly emails, or you visit our website, you can find out more information about SOAR. And you don't want to miss out on this free and fun summer orientation that allows you to get a head start on your Queen's journey. Something that you can do during SOAR that I think is really helpful is you can join this platform called Viva Engage that we're launching for you this year. It's a virtual community platform where you can connect with other incoming first year students as well as upper year students who are peer ambassadors that can answer any questions that you might have about their experience at Queen's. And you can book coffee chat calls with these upper year peer ambassadors to speak with them one-on-one if that perspective would be helpful to you. We will also have SOAR virtual socials, which will be fun, free online activities where you can meet your peers in a group setting. Additionally, we will continue having more webinars. As I already mentioned, there will be another QSAS webinar on July 22nd, but we will be having lots more webinars on all sorts of different topics. And you can check out the summer webinar schedule on the Student Experience Office website to make sure that you register for any upcoming webinars that interest you or apply to you. I really hope to see everyone there. And a webinar that we have coming up right after this one is if you happen to not be living in residence in first year, we'll be having our Living Off Campus webinar from 7 to 8 p.m. tonight. And next slide, please. Or is that the last slide? Okay. Well, thank you so much to our presenter, Christina, and all of our back-end support staff today for their time this evening. And thank you so much to everyone at home for attending and joining us in this webinar tonight. We really hope that you have a great rest of your night and that we'll hopefully see you at other events. So take care, everyone.